my rule of life in the last 15 years is I literally think about taking an action, and I think about when I'm 85 and if I have to look back at this moment and I didn't do it, I don't want to have that feeling. Even if I miserably fail at it right now, it's
Right.
okay. Just do it. Do you look back at anything in your own life? I'm sorry if I'm asking something personal that you wish you had done,
Well, I've had a very adventurous life,
of course.
and so the way I'll answer that question is this. My father died at age 61,
Right.
right? And that was before Forrest Gump came out, right? That was before a lot of things that I've done in life he didn't get to see.
Mm.
And there's a lot of questions that I'd like to ask him that I never got around to asking him. And and so those things I regret are the why didn't I ask him that question? Why didn't I ask my mother that question? And they're the only ones that can answer it. So I was given a gift for Christmas from my youngest daughter.
Mm.
And the gift was this. The gift was, I've signed you up for this story company. And every week they're going to send you a question and you're going to have to answer the question. And so at the end of the year, then we'll make the book out of that. And so I did that. And it became a wonderful tool to, I made up enough copies for all the grandkids to have. So at some point, they'll read it, I hope. But it's
Mm.
a lot of like things about my life that you never get around to having those conversations with them. And by the time they're ready to have the conversations, you might not be around. So that's my why didn't I ask those questions? And
Yeah.
maybe some of them I know the answers to, but I don't really. I'm assuming that's the answer to that question.
Again, and please just stop me if I'm going a little too deep here because this is an interesting convers topic for me too, because just my relationship with my parents is amazing, but there's always certain things that you just, at least for me, you want to say it, you want to ask, but you just don't know how to ask or how to say it.
Sure.
W- Was there, you know, s- whether it's with your kids or with your parents, was it more so just an awkward topic, or was it just not having the, you know, the the strength to ask the question, or just something else completely?
I think it's probably all of those things. I think
Mm.
that the family that my father grew up in, he was Mormon,
Mm-hmm.
and he left the church, in high school and
Right.
my mom. So we weren't raised Mormon. But a lot of that influence, I think, developed a relationship between the father and the son that was in that family. They never talked about themselves whatsoever. Now, as it turns out, two of the brothers were architects, and one of them, like we found out, designed the Canyon Springs Hotel in Palm Springs, and about 40 mid-century homes that are there that are in books, to this day. And I've
Sure.
asked everybody in the family, all my older cousins, and a lot of them were in the construction business. I said, "Did you guys know that Ken designed the Canyon Springs Hotel, which was a famous, iconic hotel in the '60s in Palm Springs?" No, nobody in the family knew until the guy that's writing the book about mid-century architecture found me, and I ended up having a conversation and learning about my uncle, who, by the way, was probably he was a wonderful guy, and we always enjoyed Uncle Ken, when he came by. My dad and him had a great relationship, but it was because of the way that they were raised. They just didn't talk about what they had done. They were never patting themselves on the back for anything. Now, I had a very good relationship with my dad. We actually lived together after my parents got divorced after 30 years, and we ended up living together for a few years. Um, and I worked for him. He was a designer and builder of rock swimming pools in Southern California, and built a lot of other things too. And so it wasn't like he went one way and I went the other, and I left the house when I was out of high school. It wasn't that way at all. We were actually close, I think, for a father-son relationship. But there were certain things that I didn't feel comfortable, I guess, asking him at the time about his life. And it was, I think some of it had to, that I was insecure about it, I guess, or there was some politeness involved of things you didn't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
because it was different in that era, um, I think. But fortunately for me, he was very engaged and involved in all the things that we did growing up, from coaching Little League to, if you saw
Yeah.
the skateboard documentary, all the stuff he did, he was always doing things for the kids in the Palisades. He was very involved in that.
Yeah.
And so in that way, we had a very close relationship. But then again, there are certain things that I'd sure like to know that I never got around to asking him.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that how the pat in the back, right? Like I've learned about things of my dad, the titles that he had held back home. I'm not gonna get into that but it was just crazy that I never knew that he was actually running a city, an entire city, and he never told me about it, us about it. And I think I'm like that with my son too, where I don't really talk about what I do. I don't know if it's a father-son thing. Like I'll say what I do, but I won't say, "Oh, look what I did! Such an amazing thing." It's never like that. I don't know if it's a father-son thing or what it is,
You
but
know, I can tell you with my own son that he would never let me really teach him how to do anything.
yeah, he told me about that.
And that he would, I'd say, even riding a bike, he would this one, no, no. And then one day he did, "K Dad, I want to show you something." And I'd go outside, there he is riding a two-wheel bike. I'm like, okay, that's the way this is going to be. And even when I coached him in Little League, it was the same thing. I couldn't really coach him. I could coach the rest of the kids, but I had to leave him be, in essence.
Yeah,
And he probably knew more about baseball than I did anyway. So it didn't matter much. But but yeah, but I don't. And where did that come from? I don't know. Something in our breeding, perhaps.